How much should we read into round one of NRL fantasy? Should I panic about guys I have, and should I rush to buy guys I don't have? Welcome back, guys. We're going to be talking about round one NRL fantasy in Las Vegas, some curveballs there, and what we should read into some of these scores. Now, we're going to turn to both games here. First up, the Canberra Raiders versus New Zealand Warriors here, and then we'll go into the Panthers and Sharks. Xavier Savage here, 69 points. Now, 2 tries, that doesn't mean anything to me. I'm not super fussed about that. Line break. The 7 tackle breaks is encouraging. But the interesting thing is 2 offloads here. So offload to hand, offload to ground, and 200 meters run with a full field try. It's a stat line that indicates to me he might be turning a corner and playing more physical football. So I don't mind that, but he is going to be suspended. So don't go and buy Xavier Savage right now. Hudson Young, we know who Hudson Young is, right? This is pretty regular for him. He's an absolute beast. He's very expensive. I wouldn't go and get him either. Tomoko is one that we did flag as a potential pod for this year at 1.4% ownership. He had that try. It was a great try off a Hosking pass there. Had a try assist too, so some nice attacking stats there. Not a lot of meters run for him, which is a bit strange, but yeah, again, I wouldn't rush to go and buy him, but if you did like him, I don't mind that shout. Zach Hosking's really interesting here, so I'll zoom down a bit. So Hosking, 66 minutes, 62 points. You come through with the try assist there, 44 tackles. We've got the 78 meters run and basically no negative stats here, except for one error there. So, it's a nice day out for Hosking. It sort of indicates to me that he's probably going to be that 50 average guy with the addition of attacking stats that take him up to about a 55 average. So 62 is pretty high on that spectrum, especially playing 66 minutes. But I think if you don't have Hosking, you should probably go and buy him. I think he, even without the 80 minutes, is probably someone that you want to get into your team. So keep that in mind. He is one that I'm saying react and go and buy him. Egan, we love Egan, but the injury history is really dodgy. So 51 tackles is great, 62 meters is great. We did see some big tackle counts for hookers though, so I wouldn't overreact to that one. Fogarty 55 is pretty much what we expect, so that's great. Corey Horsburgh, 59 minutes here. We see Tarpanay out for 2 to 3 weeks as a result of a shoulder charge as well. So for Horsburgh here, no attacking stats for 55 points. We've got 34 tackles, 123 meters. A bunch of offloads there as well. A couple of missed tackles, but nothing too catastrophic. This is pretty regular for Horsburgh. So when I was talking about him and saying, we hope he gets that 55 to 60-minute role for 55 points, that's exactly what happened here, and we got a good one. Papali'i came into the team late. Smithies moved to the bench, so Horsburgh did play some lock minutes to start the game and then moved to the prop rotation as well. Smithies, I'm not overreacting. Fisher Harris, 46 minutes is not great, but if I owned him, I would give him another week. And if I didn't own him, which I don't, then I wouldn't be buying him. Starling's interesting. So 450K, scored you 51 points. That's good for that price. Played some minutes at lock in this game as well. Saw a line break from him. He looked really electric in this game. 33 tackles, 3 misses isn't amazing, but 127 run meters is pretty sweet there. So look, again, Starling, I'm not going to overreact and go buy him. But if you need a hooker desperately, hypothetically next week, Mama Zealous gets dropped or something, and you've got Harry Grant as your starting hooker and you need a hooker, Starling is one that I would consider. Seb Chris, no go. Mitch Barnett, should you panic about Barnett? 51 minutes is not ideal. He moved to lock, which sort of looked like, usually when he plays at lock, he goes pretty well, but then played really small minutes. They had Aaron Clark and they had Dylan Walker on the bench. Barnett is one that I've not been a believer in him in the preseason just because he's so expensive. So 712K is really expensive. And historically, he hasn't been that huge minute guy. So I'm always a bit cautious of guys like that where they have that one big year and potentially can keep it going or potentially revert back to the norm. I still think that Barnett is going to be better than this score indicates, though. So if you have bought Barnett, you got to stick with him. Like dual position, he can absolutely pump points. 51 minutes was not great. The Warriors played pretty terribly, right? So is he going to keep playing those small minutes? I think him and Fisher Harris will both increase in minutes as this year goes on. And having them both off the field at the same time was a bit of a disaster. So, even with that 50 minutes too, it's 40 tackles, 86 meters, no negative stats at all, right? So that is pure base, 49 points. You're absolutely fine. If you have Mitch Barnett, hold on to him, see how it goes. If he keeps playing 50 minutes a week, then eventually we'll look to sell him, but I wouldn't do it right now. Tamale, if you don't have Tamale, I think you have to go buy him. So 2 line breaks in this one, 7 tackle breaks, and then you got the 216 run meters there as well. So really didn't have the big attacking plays in terms of try scoring and try assists that we will see from him, but he absolutely killed it in this game, 49 points. Again, Xavier Savage is out suspended, most likely for 1 to 2 weeks. So we're going to see Tamale get more minutes as well. Ford, no go. Chanel Harris Tavita, you could make a case for it if he keeps the spot. So you have the try assist there, and then the 280 kick meters as well. We're going to talk about Metcalf in a second too. In fact, I'll talk about them both now. I'll go to Metcalf as well. But for Chanel Harris Tavita, I wouldn't go and buy him. And it's not a stat case that I'm going to make here. It's more that they've got a few halves in the ranks. Tamari Martin played a bit in the trials. Tanner Boyd, they went and signed as well. I think Chanel Harris Tavita is probably the one of the two halves that will get dropped first. So my concern there is job security. If he was locked into that role for the year, then maybe you look at it. But without that job security, I'm not super interested. I'm just going to jump down to his halves partner here in Metcalf. So Metcalf, 21 points here, 18 tackles, and then minus 14 in missed tackles. The -2, so -4 in errors there as well. So you got minus 18 in negative stats there, which is absolutely brutal. You then throw in only 68 run meters. I think you have more than that in future games. 339 kick meters is fine. So he kicked more than half the time. Look, overall for Metcalf, I'm not panicking too much here. Like I wouldn't panic about Metcalf. I just sort of don't see him, playing like this every week, right? The Warriors, again, I don't mind the Warriors. It's a good forward pack. They got some guys on the edges. They were blown out in this game. Absolutely destroyed. They won't be blown out every week. They'll rock up in future games and they'll sort of figure it out and get it together. So Metcalf's a guy I'm not panicking on yet, but I probably will put him in the loophole spot next week just because I don't trust the scoring just yet. But I do think at 441K, you got to stick with him and ride the wave. Then we got Tarpanay here, 41 points. Got a sin bin. I wouldn't read into that if you have Tarpanay, but he is out for 2 to 3 weeks. So probably not one you want to keep. Papali'i, no go. Then Tuvasashek, 38 points to the try sort of proves what I've been saying. Not a guy to start with. Strange, Walker, Aaron Clark, not enough minutes. So mid-40s for both Walker and Clark is the worst case scenario for both. So we ended up with a bit of time where they were both on the field together, but overall, just not enough minutes. Capewell, no. Pompey, Weeks, Nikora. I mean, these are guys that most of you don't own. If you have Leia Tower, you probably want to give him a couple more weeks, but probably not one you wanted to start with. Oh, and Paddy, 19 points in 19 minutes with the 21 tackles there. Really not a lot of stats other than that. So, yeah, he's a worker, right? He's a worker, and if he gets the role at some point, I will be considering him. And then, these other guys here, Halasima, Sasangi, Vamaga, not guys that are going to get the minutes required. So we'll jump across to the next game here because it's the Panthers and the Sharks. And this one had some big things to react to. Okay, let's go through them. So first up, Isaiah Yeo. If you didn't start with Isaiah Yeo, which I didn't, and I'm going to put my hand up and say that, then do you need to rush him in? My answer is no. My answer is no. And this game hasn't changed my mind about Yeo at all. In fact, it's kind of fine. Like I don't know how to describe. He got 70 points, right? He had a fantastic game. But he scored this try. So 8 points for the try, 4 points for the line break, a couple of tackle breaks as well. So let's throw that together and put that in as, a 16-point try. So you take that off, and then maybe 10 meters run as well. So call it a 17-point try. You dump that 70 score down to a 53. That's kind of a pretty mediocre day for Yeo. Probably one of the lowest scores he can score. He doesn't really score below 50. So 53 is pretty light for Yeo. The 43 tackles is fine. Like the stat line is okay. Forced turnover, 147 meters run. There's nothing wrong with it. But 70 points with a try, I'm not freaking out. Like he's not going to score that many tries this year. And if he comes out and scores 15 tries this year, then I will eat my hat. Like I've got the hat somewhere. I'll eat it. Like he's just not going to do that. So Isaiah Yeo is a weapon. He's absolutely a weapon. I still think that you don't need to rush and buy him. If you don't have him, stick to your strategy. If you do have him, great. Fanua Blake is another one. I'm not going to go rush and buy him. So 68 points with a try. So you take those points off. It's down to about well, it's not anything to freak out about. Brayley, so tighter field here. And what we saw for some of the hookers is more tackles. So 61 tackles for him. 30 meters run. Had the offload there as well. But look, overall, not a stat line that indicates to me that there's a structural change in the way they're attacking. So for Brayley, I'm not going to do anything about that. I think he is value, but it's quite minor, and I wouldn't be rushing to buy him. Jesse Ramian, just some nice attacking plays. 9 tackle breaks is good, but he always does that. McInnes, 57 points in 53 minutes. No negative stats here. Really nice base, but not a guy I'm going to rush to buy. Nikora, no go. Okay, so Cleary. We've got to talk about Cleary, right? This guy here scored 56 points. He's in 60% of teams. That is actually crazy. So for him, you got the 4 goals here. You got the try assist, the 19 tackles, 3 missed tackles there, 70 run meters, and 649 kick meters. Now, I want to show you the kick meter split. So Cleary, 649, and then Cole. Sorry, Mitch Kenny had 2. I got to throw that in. And Cole, where is he? Cole had 21, right? So it's a 98% kick meter split for Cleary. So I'm looking at Cleary and I'm not worried at all. In fact, that game makes me more confident in Cleary going forward. So with Cleary, it was a game where it didn't all come together for him. He nearly had the try. He nearly had a few other attacking plays as well. Nearly had the 40-20. Like a few of those things come together and it's an 80-point game and we're not talking about anything. So I wouldn't be freaking out at all. I'm happy with Cleary's stats here. The kick meter split is massive. Like he will totally dominate kick meters with this halves pairing next to Cole. Cole is not kicking the ball at all, basically. So Cleary's kick meter is going to be great. The attack will come. Like I'm not worried at all. He's going to be my captain next week, 100%. And I think he should be your captain next week too, because I reckon he's going to absolutely crush it. Now, Lindsay Smith is another one we got to talk about here. So 54 points in this game, only 1.4% ownership, which is pretty crazy. 60 minutes and just pumped out base stats, right? So 140 meters, 47 tackles. Now for Lindsay Smith, I don't know. Do we ever react to that? Like my problem here is that Liam Henry was out for this game and he'll be back pretty soon. So Liam Henry eats into some of those minutes. It becomes a 55-minute role, maybe a 50-minute role, and it's just not as attractive anymore. So for Lindsay Smith, already at 600K, I'm going to skip this one, but he totally has the potential to be a fantasy stud. So if you like it and you think for some reason he's going to get big minutes, then you can jump on that, but I just don't see it going that way. I think he'll be value, but not enough value to justify it. Now, Laurie's always a stud when he steps in, but just no job security. Edwards there. If you have Edwards, stick with him. If you don't buy him, basically. Teague Wilton's interesting, so he's pretty cheap. Got the 45 with no attacking stats, just nice run meters and tackles there. A few of you guys jumped on Teague Wilton. Stick with him. 45 is fine. You're all good with that. Now, Trindle had a good kick meter count here. So let's talk about Trindle and Hines. So I've got Trindle here, and I want to show you this with halves, right? It's always what's the kick meter split at the start of the year, right? So Trindle, 536 kick meters. Hines, 164. Trindle absolutely dominated the kick meters. So that is a total of 700 kick meters. Trindle had 536 of them. Now, for him, not a lot of run meters to go with it, 33 of those. And, had the 2 try assists, but it wasn't his most effective on-ball sort of game. So he had the ball a lot, but it was a lot of shoveling the ball on. They looked a little bit lost in attack at times. Fanua Blake created a try. Iro exploited the matchup at center as well. But yeah, for Trindle, if you have Trindle, stick with him. If you don't have Trindle, I don't think you can go buy him. I just think guys like Luai, Munster at a similar price point are better options. So I wouldn't be going there. And then for Nico Hines, the 41 points is pretty disappointing. He was on about 20 after 20 minutes, had the try assist. Tackle count's fine. 95 run meters and 164 kick meters is pretty middling. Like this is a pretty weak performance when it comes to fantasy. So 41 points with the try assist. You're looking at like a 30 base here, basically, which, for 825K, like he's just not kicking the ball enough. And you could increase this kick count, maybe when he's playing well, it's sort of triple this, right? So you add an extra 10 points for that. You make the base 40 points and you add attacking stats on top of that 40. But yeah, he's a bit too fragile for mine. He'll get nice and cheap at some point, and then potentially the role will change. Bit of talk that there's an abductor injury as well, a few things like that. But with Nico Hines, I don't know. I think he's got Souths next week. So if you have him, you got to stick with him against South Sydney. Like that's a matchup he could totally dominate. But if you don't have him, steer clear. Wait for the price to drop and then make your move then. Papali'i, good PPM in small minutes there. So 41 and 49. Played a bit of prop in this game. I think he went to the edge for a little bit too. But yeah, this was solid. He's a guy I got my eye on 100%. And when he gets a starting spot, I'll jump on. Iro, Leota, Kennedy not reacting. Alamotti, Sorensen, Tungo. Tungo was on like 29 points in like 25 minutes and then just sort of did nothing after that. So the 5 missed tackles are rough. And, he was more involved, had the try, had a bunch of run meters, but just didn't convert it to fantasy stats. Jack Cole was interesting. So 26 tackles, the 5 misses are a bit rough there for minus points. But the thing for him is 43 run meters is not enough. So if Cole's going to be there as the creative 6 who doesn't really kick the ball much, he's got to be running the ball a bit more and creating a bit more in attack. He did have a few nice plays where he sort of ran the sweeping option, and I think that's going to open up into some attacking plays. But like we had him in this week, we had him in the loophole spot. keep him in that loophole spot or the emergencies, because he's probably not a guy you can start until we see a bit more from him in first grade. Hazleton, Hamlin, ULA, Stone Street, not reacting to any of this. Talakai, Kafusi, Eisenhuth, Mulatalo, Patea, Atkinson, Casey McLean. I mean, McLean out HIA. So if you did have McLean, a few of you guys did, not in our community, but I have seen a few teams out there who did have him. That's a rough go. That's a really rough go. You're probably going to have to sell him because his break even is going to be crazy, and I'd just move off him. Look, guys, that is these games. So we're going to do Team List Tuesday tomorrow. So 4 p.m. Team List Tuesday, live video. We go through team lists, break those down. But for these games here, most of my answer is just relax, stick with the selections you made before round one. You've done your study, you've done your research, you made your calls. Don't let one game change your calls. Give players a round or two to really mesh into their roles and sort of figure it out. Don't trade Metcalf out, for example. Don't trade some of these lower scores like Barnett out. Stick with these guys, see how it goes, but and don't panic on trying to buy Isaiah Yo and destroying your team to do it. Otherwise, guys, hopefully it was a good week for you, and hopefully this upcoming week is good too. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace out.